Well, the more that I think about my mom was something else. I don't think she ever got credit for who she really
Mm.
was. She, during the war, my mom took in people and fed them.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter who, they would come to her and she'd feed them. And I can remember back when she was always just working, working, working.
Mm.
And in the midst of it, she had a crazy personality, like tying beads on somebody else's bicycle, so they'd ride off with these beads behind the. Oh yes, she was naughty. She was naughty, so she had a personality, and it was just. But sometimes you don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now I look at her and I'm thinking, you were amazing.
Yeah.
People, didn't look at her as very friendly, maybe a little intimidating, because I heard enough about that from the rest of the family sometime. But actually, I think she did more than what you'd ever think. Because she would do anything for you. She would. And she'd work her little buns off. She had a flower garden, she had produce she did, and she did all the can. I mean, really.
Mm.
Us women, we don't work like that today. She worked.
Mm.
And even in the rest home, I'd visit her in the rest home. She was still naughty. She was in a wheelchair by that time. She was in the wheelchair, and some old guy would, pass her and meet her, and she'd say, "Look at that old guy," and she'd do something to him. And I'm just like, "Mom, you're calling a 98, you're calling this guy an old man." I loved it. She never thought she was old. Though my dad stood out to me, he's the one that first told me to hit my belly when the planes came overhead. He just hit your belly when the planes come overhead. So,
What
and
does hit your belly mean?
you just lay on your belly because the planes were, we were at war.
Yeah. So you remember the planes going by?
Oh, ho, 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 ho. I do.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course my dad, they were both they were very much active and involved
Mm.
with what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
unlike we are, really. We're just, well, my dad, I was daddy's girl. I really was daddy's girl, even though he was probably intimidating too. But he was the man who was really intelligent. He really was intelligent, and so I would milk the cows with him in the barn. And one day, my favorite cat disappeared, and I knew she had had babies. Okay, so my dad got the gunny sack out and put a few rocks in the gunny sack, and I knew where he was heading, and Greta was right on top of it. So here he went to a creek that was deep enough so that I knew I could rescue those babies,
And you did.
and I did. I rescued those babies and I brought them up into the haymow because I knew he wouldn't, he wouldn't find them there. And when he would be haying, I would sit on the back of the wagon with my pitchfork, and I'd kill enough little mice to come home, and all the kitties were waiting for me.
So you're providing for the kiddies.
I provided for my little kittens. I know, I know that was. He was severe. I'd honored him very much. Sometimes I was afraid of him. But when I would, at 17 or 16, crawl on his lap, he would be reading his Dutch preek, Hollandse preek, and I could just sit there and just cuddle up to his chest and, yeah. So he was very loving, and I kind of thought I was his favorite, but I probably wasn't. My daddy was, of course, my favorite because I didn't like my mother too much because I think I was just maybe too much like her. I don't know, but I didn't lot like my mother, and I find a lot of women that don't like their mother. But anyway, I could always run to dad. But if he'd get mad at me, one time he got so mad at me, I came off the school bus, and I was in love with the driver. And because he was the driver, and I was just maybe sixth grade or seventh grade, and I came home with makeup on my face. And my dad looked at me and he said, "You go wash your face and don't you ever come home looking like that again." That was the end of that. But on the other hand, my dad was sensitive, and I could tell the way sometimes he would handle the cows that he had hurt. He didn't want to be a farmer, I don't believe. I think he did the farm in the Netherlands, but that he also delivered feed. He was very sensitive at taking care of his family. We would come home after church and we would stand around the old pump organ and we'd all sing our little hearts out and just loved it. And all of my siblings have very good voices. My two brothers had good voices and my sisters had good voices. Betty always played the organ. And she would, we would just, that's what our dessert was after church in the morning. So that was Dad. Dad had a trumpet. I don't know who's got the trumpet today, but yeah, and well, when I look at my life, I'm gonna cry anyway. I never dreamed that God was gonna use me in the way He has, and what He has done. God is such an amazing God of restoration and healing. So I've been to Norway, been to Germany, and I've been to Guatemala, and of course, the Ukraine has been my love. And all the people there, my family has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and I still get Russian letters, and so I just feel like God has just blessed my life so much that it'll last into eternity.